In the top left position, representing Team Property, spawning as the pink Protoss player, incredibly strong, very, very solid, very tough opponent to take down. Will he be able to advance out of the group? We'll find out, guys, because his name is RunA. And his opponent, spawning in the bottom position. On the right-hand side is the red Zerg player, representing Team Awesome Gaming. We just saw him play. He played, I'd say, a relatively solid series, but unable to overcome Night End. He now faces another Protoss. Can he do it? It is XeNoN.
Now, RunA, to put this in perspective, did just go 2-0 in his last series, up against DHOpen. So,
Yep.
things say that, okay, he had a better start to his group. His
Certainly.
first games of the day as well. Therefore, he's probably feeling a bit more confident going into this, having been on a win.
Well, don't forget as well, I mean, all of these players are actually quite strong. Even the weakest players you guys see in these groups, by the way, are like, I'm pretty sure they're mid to high masters. So,
RunA's GM.
well, oh yes, but I'm referring to,
Oh.
even Derps is not
Yep.
a walkover opponent. Like, definitely not.
No,
everyone in this DreamHack Open is an incredibly skilled player. But it does have to be said that one of these players played Derps, and the other one played Night End, who was pretty much an indisputed favorite to get out of this group. So, I'm hoping that we come from a position where XeNoN doesn't let that affect him too much. He knows that RunA's opponent might have been easier than Night End, and as a result, he might be able to mentally reset and get on with his game. And I think that is what would stand him in best stead here.
I think it would too. And what XeNoN's doing at the moment is he's going for a hatch first, followed up by a gas, then the pool. This is a really bold opening, but Whirlwind is probably one of the maps where you can get away with it, because even if it was a forge first,
Yeah.
you're not likely to get cannoned on it, because it's just so big. You'd have to go to the right spawn position first. Lots of things tie in to make that a viable thing to do. So
That's right.
I think this is a good opening by XeNoN at the moment. RunA, just a gateway expand means that you're safe. You've got the tech there. You've got a lot of viable openings that you can really branch off and transition into in the mid game. Both of these two are setting themselves up really nicely for this.
It is all
game.
about the spawn locations at the end of the day. If you get to the correct spawn location first with a cannon rush on a map this big, then great. You stand a good chance of taking your opponent out. But the chances of that happening blind are 1 in 3. It's just, it's not the kind of odds you want to be taking into a high-level game, especially not at a tournament like this. So, like you said, one of the reasons that Whirlwind lends itself, of course, to those longer macro games is that exactly. We have got the Mothership Core out now from RunA, so let's see if he uses that to mainly defend it as natural, or if once he sees where his opponent is, if he can do a little bit of early game damage with it. I personally would be against that, because there isn't actually much dead space on the edges of the map on Whirlwind, except for just a little bit by the natural expansion. Not really Mothership Core harassment friendly.
No, it's not. It's not even just moving over with, say, a Zealot and a Stalker plus a Mothership Core friendly, because it's just such a long rush distance there. However, one thing RunA can do is get a sentry out quickly, be in a good defense position, but XeNoN actually going for a Baneling nest. Now, that is rather unusual in this matchup, because Banelings aren't commonly used, especially early game, just because of force fields outright blocking them. So, I'm really excited to see what XeNoN's going to be doing here, and whether he can make it work. It could potentially catch RunA off guard.
It could indeed. This is very, very interesting. I mean, there are very, very few instances where I used to always see Baneling Nest and ZVP, and they usually involved then TSL Hyun, and the map usually was Belshire Beach.
Yep.
Where we just bust that ramp all day, every day. And I suppose that's feasibly possible because 22 Lings are now out, and it looks like that might be what XeNoN is doing here. So, for me, in terms of when this strategy is constantly used all the time, a little bit of a blast from the past, but I'm looking forward to seeing how well it works.
My concern, though, is the warp gate tech has just finished. 3 additional gateways there. 4 gates, all warping in, can get enough sentries out to hold this, but it's got to come quickly. 10 Banelings on the way in. This is going to be somewhat unexpected. A couple of Zerglings are seen. Sees there's only a single sentry there. 2 more are warping in, though. Will RunA be able to hold this off? The Banelings, they're starting to waddle. They're starting to make their advance. It's like the March of the Penguins, but Zerg style.
They do waddle as well, actually. Here we go. Right, the Banelings have been seen. The Mothership Core Okay, there we go. Just going straight through the pylon, not even attempting to try and bust out any of those gateways. The Ling's starting to surround stuff now. Force field getting some of those units, but not too many. And this gateway is going to go down as well. So there will be an opportunity for these Lings to continue to flood through. And there we go. 2 more force fields, not quite enough. Looks like some of them are just about held back. And wow, the sentries surviving there. I thought these 2 sentries were going to go down. What does the workers, what does the units lost tab look like? The resources lost are more for XeNoN right now, but not by too much. And RunA has used that photon overcharge on the Nexus. So could we potentially see round 2 here?
Well, we're going to. There's a lot more Zerglings in production, but this wall-off is back up. The sentries are now down. The warp gate tech still going to be coming off cooldown. More units will be coming in. The mothership core as well can be moved very far forward to try and chip off and weaken a couple of banelings before they make their way up with no anti-air there. And it may not seem like much, but just 1 or 2 fewer banelings can make it a lot harder. Will RunA be paying attention though? Needs to get the force fields down. Doesn't quite hit it with 1. The second one does stop it.
Oh, great target firing as well. The baneling, if that exploded on the sentries, that would have been bad news bears for RunA. But XeNoN continuing to try with this aggression here. He's not going to be able to make it work at this moment in time now. I can't help but feeling he could have made maybe, because of the number of sentries here, he could have made a couple more banelings and try and hit in the middle of these 2 gateways, maybe take apart a pair of gateways. I think that's his best chance right now, because if he keeps taking apart the pylon, 1 or 2 force fields will keep him out. He takes apart 2 gateways on the other hand, and the number of force fields needed to keep Lings out of there are huge. Of course, it takes a lot more banelings to do that, and you can't just say it and go. It's not a choose one or the other, because you have to make a lot more banelings. But I think that's XeNoN's best chance of breaking in, at least it was back then.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the really big things, though, is that XeNoN is so committed to this push now. He has to keep going with it. He's got far too behind in his drone count, and if he doesn't keep up the aggression and deal significant damage to RunA, this game is going to need a miracle for him to come back into. But he's gearing up for it. He's going to try and get his way in. A couple of Zerglings do manage to string their way through, but very small numbers. The pylon now goes down, and that is a lot of Zerglings
He needs to get the
main
sentries.
base.
He needs to get the sentries. If he doesn't get the sentries, this will not work. A couple of Stalkers being warped in now. And it looks like the last couple of Stalkers are going down. The sentries are very slowly starting to be targeted, but once again, no dice. So close, yet so far. And this is just 1 force field's worth. Look how many sentries there are here right now. There are 8 sentries, Maddles. It's just not going to work. XeNoN's banging his head against a brick wall right now.
And
hello?
Ooh, okay, RunA, he does still have to hit the force field though. And that's the one thing that you could potentially fault him for, but not to matter. There we go. We've got XeNoN.